Welcome again to Bri and Colton have a one-sided rivalry against internet feminist Anita Sarkeesian. This week we're talking about the video Glee, GQ, and the sexualization of young girls, in which no young woman is ever sexualized because everyone in the video is over the age of at least 22, if not 25.
The Parents Television Council released a statement against the photo shoot saying, "It is disturbing that GQ, which is explicitly written for adult men, is sexualizing the actresses who play high school age characters on Glee in this way. It borders on pedophilia." In response, GQ released this statement. "The Parents Television Council must not be watching much TV these days and should learn to divide reality from fantasy. As often happens in Hollywood, these kids are in their 20s. Corey Monteith's almost 30. I think they're old enough to do what they want." First of all, GQ, it doesn't matter what age the actors are. They're known for their portrayal of high school students on a very popular television show.
How many characters have these actors played that are not high school students?
All of them except for Glee, I'm pretty sure.
Interesting.
But now they can't do anything because they've magically regressed into high school aged students.
And like on the one hand, I sort of see where they're coming from because the photo shoot was explicitly for Glee and because it was set in a high school. But I think it's more of the juxtaposition of adult actors in lingerie in high school settings. Like that was sort of the whole theme of the photo shoot. But it's also acceptable because they're adults.
GQ isn't kidding anyone. They were absolutely clear on what the spread was and who their audience is. And the fact that people are actually defending it just goes to show how desensitized we've become as a society to the widespread, pervasive sexualization of young girls.
It's interesting to me that she's blaming GQ for this rather than the two actresses themselves. And it's completely unfair for us to say to these women, no, you were young and you were innocent and you will stay that way forever. Because children will get confused. No, parents, fucking step up.
Yeah, and also, what kids reading GQ?
Right. What you do not understand about pedophilia, Miss Anita Sarkeesian stupid face, is that it's actually, there's a lot of science that's out there that basically says like pedophilia is no different than like straightness or homosexuality or bisexuality. Not to compare any of those sexuality to pedophilia, but it's something that you're inherently born with, is an attraction to children. And so we have two options. We can either completely ostracize this group of people who through no fault of their own have this really tragic affliction, or we can give them means to take care of this in some way
without actually having them touch children. Obviously that wasn't the intent of the GQ photo shoot, but
you know.
But it's an important point to make.
This photo shoot is no different from the countless pornographic-style images that infantilize adult women and fetishize young girls. How many times do we see in the mass media women dressed up as young girls with lollipops and Catholic schoolgirl outfits, just so straight men can live out some disturbing dominator fantasy about corrupting innocence? Basically,
you're saying that all fetishes that you don't understand are bad, and that's almost more damaging than this alleged sexualization of young girls.
So what? Someone has a desire to corrupt innocence. Get over it. Some people have a desire to preserve innocence.
Some people have a desire to make out with feet.
They don't care, nor do they take any responsibility for promoting and encouraging images of sexualized young people.
They shouldn't have to take any responsibility. If she is going to put responsibility on someone, it's on the culture, because we cannot blame a business for doing what it actually is obligated to. But if GQ is a publicly traded organization and corporation, then they are ethically bound to make the most profit because of the obligation that they have to their shareholders to repay their investments and give their shareholders part of their profits.
This isn't an issue about if an 8-year-old picks up a magazine and sees it. This is a public health issue.
It's a public health issue.
And at this point, at the end of her video, it sort of comes back around to the objectification of women, but these women chose to do this. They chose to do this probably because it would make them a ton of money. That is more feminist than being all buttoned up and hating men.
Anita.
Or hating male audiences that like to look at women. Like, how dare men be sexually aroused by the gender that they're sexually aroused by, if that happens to be women.
Anita.
Progressives and feminists need to actively reframe the message to be about the equity and equality of women as whole, fully realized human beings.
How are you gonna make a photo shoot out of that? Like, you can't do a photo shoot on my personality. The whole point of that photo shoot was to show off clothes. Like if you look at the photo shoot, the first thing you see in the caption is like the breakdown of what clothes they were wearing. And so it's partial advertising, partial aesthetic appeal. And the fact is that society and our culture finds scantily clad human beings attractive. So that's what the photo shoot is going to focus on, but then they actually do interviews with the people about more than just their boobs. Like, they didn't just ask, so Leah Michelle, how are your boobs doing today? Do you have names for your boobs?
And Corey,
how
do you like them?
Yeah, exactly. That's not what the conversation was about. It was about them. So when we want to talk about personality, we just want to talk about it. But when we want to see things, there are certain things that you can take pictures of and certain things you can't.
I mean, for God's sakes, let the women be sexy. Let them feel sexy.
There is nothing wrong with that, and that is inherently more powerful than them just talking about stuff. If they find empowerment through taking their clothes off, it doesn't matter what the man on the other side of the page is thinking about.
Well, I mean,
he is not important. The men looking at this magazine are not important in the issue of women empowerment.
Well, and she understands, because obviously in her videos she takes effort to make herself look nice and look good, because it feels good to look good.
So next time you see images of half-naked women in movies or magazines or advertising, ask yourself what you're really looking at. Is it a healthy, full, and complete human being being represented, or a woman who is nothing more than a sexual object?
It doesn't matter if anyone else perceives them as a sexual object. At the end of the day, if the woman who is being portrayed feels good about the pictures and about herself, then it does not matter what the men think about them. It doesn't matter what society thinks about them. It only matters what they think about them. And if they are okay at the end of the day, if Leah Michelle can look at those pictures and be like, man, I look good, then who cares what you have to think?
Your failure to understand that puts more power into the patriarchy than any of the potential problems you discussed us.
What?
You just got logicked.